This is a mimer that the Rebbe. This is the last years. The Rebbe had two farbrengens in that Shabbos Parshas Beraishis. One was regular, and the other one was right before Mincha. And the Rebbe is actually going to be talking about this special time of Mincha Shabbos, how that is unique and special. So that's why it's Shabbos Parsha Bereishis. It says Hisvadus Beis. That's the second Farbrengen. The first Farbrengen was earlier. This was the second Farbrengen in the year h'tnשא, Tafshin Nun Aleph. And the mimer is Eila Tildes Noach Yomer. It was actually, it says here, published that same year in Tnשא, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Rosh Chodesh Mar Cheshvan, they published this mimer. Okay, so we'll do this mimer now. This mimer, the Pashta Pshat in the Posuk, it says Eila Toldish Noach. So what does Eila Toldish Noach mean? This was the generation. The Posuk keeps on starts discussing about Noach's children, Shem, Chom, Yofis, and what happened as the two Pshatim and Rashi. But nevertheless, the pasuk says like this: Eila Tildish Noach, stop, comma, Noach ish tzaddik. So these are the generations of Noach, and then Noach was a man at tzaddik. So actually, the word Noach, the second Noach, is beginning to explain what the first Noach said, but still, when you read the pasuk, it says Eila Toldish Noach. There's two Noachs here, one after the other. Eila Toldish Noach. Why is there two Noach? So the Rebbe is going to explain in the Maimer that really Noach, which means to rest or to relax, is really the idea of Shabbos. Shabbos is Kivoi Shavas. Hashem rested. It's an idea of resting, of relaxing. And in Shabbos, we have two levels. And we have two levels of resting. There is Noach. There is the resting, which is Friday night, the Malish Shabbato. The Shabbos is 24 hours. So the night of Shabbos, that's the first resting. That's one Noach. And then we have another Noach, which is the day of Shabbos. That's a separate resting. As the Rebbe will explain, the two different, in the Maimer, there is a level in Shabbos in which the weekday gets elevated, which is the resting of the tachtonim, of the lower, so that the lower goes up. And there's also a resting in the fact that there is from the bringing down from the upper to the lower. That's the two ideas of Noach. And then we're going to talk about there's actually a third level, which is the Suda Shlishish, which is Shabbos nigh by Suda by the before towards the end of the Shabbos. That's even a higher level than these two levels. The Rebbe is going to also tie it in the Aseres Hadibris. It says Zocher is Yom HaShabbos, and then it says Shomer is Yom HaShabbos. So these two levels of Zocher and Shomer, and then there's a level of Zocher v'Shomer b'dibur echad, as the Rebbe will explain. Well, let's go step by step over here. Eila Toldish Noach Goimer. These are the Noach Goimer. Umevayer HaTzemach Tzedek b'Mamorei Dibra Maschil Zeh. So the Tzemach Tzedek explains in a mimer that opens up with the same Eila Toldish Noach. The Masha Kosu Noach Shtei Pa'amim Hu. Why does it say two times Noach? Eila Toldish Noach, and then it says Noach a second time. Uki Noach Hu B'chinas Shabbos. Noach is the level of Shabbos, which means Noach was a person, but the name Noach represents resting, relaxing. as the Rebbe will come on. As we'll see later on, it translates that rested is vayonach. It is the idea of noyach. That so the idea of noyach is the level of Shabbos, as the Rebbe will explain. Kidela kamon. Ubeshabbos yesh shtei bechines. In Shabbos there exist two levels of Shabbos, two levels of resting, two levels of Shabbos. This is also fits in very well with the Maimer Azal, Ki Maimer Azal, as the saying of our sages. So there's an interesting saying. The sages say, Ilmole Meshamrim Yisrael Shtei Shabbosis Ki Hilchosom Meyad Nig'olim. If the Jewish people, all the Jewish people, will keep two Shabboses, as is the law, which means they'll do it perfectly as the halacha requires to keep the Shabbos, so then they will be redeemed. Why is it that it's two Shabboses? What does it mean that the Yidden will keep two Shabboses? Why? What's the two Shabboses? So he says, V'yadua, it's known, the Pirush Shtei Shabboses, so when we say two Shabbos, we're not talking about two different Shabboses. We're talking that within the Shabbos itself, there are two levels. And that's what we said before. There is Noyach. There is two levels of Shabbos within every Shabbos. So v'yadua the Pirush Shtei Shabboses, what does it mean to keep two Shabboses? That it's Shtei HaShabboses Sheyeshnom B'chol Shabbos. That is the two Shabboses that are within each Shabbos. Doesn't mean two separate Shabboses, but it means the two levels of Shabbos that is in with each Shabbos. What are the two levels? It's Maila de Shabbata, that's the eve of Shabbos, the Friday night, the Yom de Shabbata, and the day of Shabbos. These are the two levels of the Shabboses, of the Friday night and the Shabbos day. That's why there's two levels of Shabbos. This also, the Rebbe says in the note over here, that in the Yerushalmi, it says, if the Jewish people keep one Shabbos, it seems to be a conflict between the Yerushalmi and the Babli. The Babli says two Shabboses, and the Yerushalmi says one Shabbos. But the way the Rebbe explains it over here, that the two Shabboses are within one Shabbos, there's no conflict anymore, because it's really one Shabbos, like the Yerushalmi says, but within the one Shabbos, Shtei Shabboses is the two levels of Shabbos that are within Shabbos, then Nigolim, which then this reconciles, it fits in with what the Yerushalmi said. So he says, weiter, v'lochein nemar noyach breis pa'amuk. That's why it says noyach two times. So since we discussed here that we have the two Shabboses, so that's why it says noyach breis pa'amuk. That's keneged shtei hashabboses shebechol Shabbos. This corresponds to the two Shabboses that are Nis Shabbos, which is the Maila de Shabbato, the Yoime de Shabbato. That's the night of Shabbos, the eve of Shabbos, and the day of Shabbos. That's why it is Noyach. So Noyach is Shabbos. In Shabbos, we have the two levels, the level of Shabbos night, the Friday night, and the level of Shabbos day. These are the two levels, as the Rebbe will explain later on. Moisim Baham Maimer. So the Maimer adds, in this Maimer that we're discussing over here of the Tzemach Tzedek, the Pirush Zeh Shenoyach Hu Shabbos, that this interpretation that we just said, that Noyach is Shabbos, Hu Alpi Ma Di Iso B'Medrash. This is based on what we find in the Medrash. So what does the Medrash said? So here we say that there's two levels of Noyach. So what does it say in the Medrash? It says Mendes like this: the Noach shtei pa'amim. Why is it 2 times Noach? Who that represents Naicha Loi? It's Noach for him, for Noach, and it's a rest, but it's also V'naicha La'olam. It's a relaxation for the world, which means that Noach brought rest to himself and rest to the world. Also, Naicha Le'ovis, another interpretation of Noach, it's a rest for fathers, V'naicha Lebonim, and it's a rest for the sons, for his children. Also, another interpretation, Naicha Le'elyonim, V'naicha Le'tachtoinim. It's a rest for the upper levels, and it's a rest for the lower levels. And yet another one, Naicha Ba'olam Hazeh V'naicha L'olam Habo. It's a rest in this world, and it's a rest for the world to come. So the idea, that's what he says, that it corresponds, that the Noach corresponds to the 2 Shabboses, is based on this Medrash, that there is this Noach is 2. It's all the different explanations in the different places, which is also applied to the Shabbos, that there is Noach, that there is Shabbos of the Maila Shabbato, the eve of Shabbos, and then the day of Shabbos. So it says this statement, the Hamedrash, even though it doesn't talk about Shabbos beferish, it just talks about Noach, the different levels of Noach. So Maimer said the Hamedrash and Noach Huloshin Naicha, that the idea of Noach is a language of relaxation. Koilel Gam HaPirush Shenoach Hu Bechinas Shabbos. This also includes in it the meaning that Noach is the level of Shabbos. So here, even though the Medrash doesn't say, but also includes that interpretation that Noach is level of Shabbos. Why? Ki b'Shabbos kisiv vayonach vayom hashvi. The word vayonach is Noach, that he rested on the 7th day on Shabbos. So therefore, Shabbos is Yonach, is Noach, is rest. So what is so? Okay, so here we know that Noach is also Shabbos because the pasuk says Vayonach Vayom Hashvi, that it's Noach. But what is the 2 times Noach? Noach. And why is the 2 times Noach? Shtei pa'amim. They say it's for two times. Heim Shabbos Tato v'Shabbos Ilo. Those are the lower level of Shabbos and the upper level of Shabbos. Now, up till now, we talked about, but this is the same as Eve of Shabbos and the day of Shabbos. Sheheim Maila de Shabbato v'Yoyme de Shabbato. That's the evening of Shabbos, the Friday night, and the day of Shabbos. The Friday night, that is called the Shabbos Tato. That's the lower level of Shabbos. That's the Friday night. The Shabbos day, that's the Shabbos Ilo. That's the upper level of Shabbos. Because, like we say over there, that we have the upper, Naichel Elyonim v'Naichel Tachtoinim, meaning the upper and the lower. That includes the level of Shabbos. So now the Rebbe is going to explain that. So first, the Tzemach Tzedek in the Maimer says that Noach is Shabbos, and he brings the Medrash for that. But after he brings the Medrash, he goes back and he says that this is Noach 2 times. So the Rebbe says that the Tzemach Tzedek is trying to say 2 things over here. First of all, he wants to tell you, Bechlal, that Noach is Shabbos, that it's the same. Because the Pasuk talks about Noach being relaxation. and Shabbos is the idea of Noach Vayonach. So that's the first thing. But then he also wants to further stress, after bringing the medrash, that this is basically also the 2 times Noach, because the upper level and the lower level. Let's look. The Rebbe is explaining what the words of the Tzemach Tzedek over here. Yesh loimar, so we can say the Mahataimim al zeh shemevayir oidpam. Some of the reason why is the Tzemach Tzedek explaining again. He already brings the proof from the Medrash that Noach is the level of Shabbos, because in the Medrash we see that Noach is a relaxation, that's the idea of Noach. So, and we know that Shabbos is resting, relaxation, that is Shabbos. So he goes further and he says that Noach, he says that this is the night of Shabbos and the day of Shabbos. So he says it again, that is in order to hint to us that the connecting, the connection of the explanation of the Maimer so what we're explaining in the Maimer with regards to Shabbos with the Pirush that we find in the Medrash is 2 things. First, it's Bichlal, the idea of Noach, that Noach has to do, Noach is Shabbos. The Mezesh and Noach Huloshenaicha. Since the Medrash says that the whole idea of Noach is relaxation, resting, that would be the first part that's evidence that Noach is Shabbos, because the Medrash says Noach is resting. So that's when it's Shabbos. So that's the first. And also, as it relates that Noach, it says 2 times, which means there are 2 levels over here. The Pirush Shebaha'maimer. That is that the Maimer explains that these are 2 levels in Shabbos. Noach heim Shabbos Tato, B'Shabbos Ilod, Shabbos Tato, which is Mailid de Shabbato, Erev Shabbos. B'Shabbos Ilo, which is Yoima de Shabbato. So these are 2 levels. So therefore, so this fits with the similar to the Medrash interpretation. In the Medrash, we see that Noach is the rest for the upper and the rest of the Tachtonim, which would be the Shabbos Tato and Shabbos Ilo, which would be Friday night and Shabbos day. And that's why, so there is more than just that Noach is idea of resting. So we know that Shabbos is also Noach, but it's also the 2 times Noach. The 2 resting is the upper and the lower, which is the Maila de Shabbata and Yom de Shabbata, which is Shabbos Ilo and Shabbos Tato. What is the idea over here? What does it mean, the upper resting of Shabbos and the lower resting of Shabbos? Or what is it? What is the difference between the resting of Friday night and the resting of Shabbos day? So what's the idea? Shamayli de Shabbato, and this is in the persons. What does it mean? We're resting on Friday night, and how we're resting on Shabbos. Is the Maila de Shabbato is Aliyas HaMalchus. We say that Malchus goes up. Basically, during the weekday, Malchus comes down to Biyah and energizes all the work that we do. Also, the same thing a Yid. Throughout the week, he's busy with Avodas HaBirurim. He works with the world, with the worldly matters. He's preoccupied. Comes Shabbos, he rests from his work. He rests from his Avodas HaBirurim. Malchus goes up. It is no longer invested in Biyah, but it gets elevated. The first level of Shabbos is to elevate yourself to go up from your weekly activities and become Shabbos. Maila de Shabbato, which is on the Erev Shabbos, the Friday night, Aliyas HaMalchus, Ba'avodas Ha'odom, how does this interpret in the service of the person who birur v'ha'aloas ha'guf v'nefesh ha'ba'am is when we sort out and we elevate, we bring up the body and the nefesh ha'ba'am, the animal soul. That's the Erev Shabbos. That's the Friday night. That is the tachton shebi odom. That's the lower part of the person, his body and his animal soul. That's the Shabbos tato. That is to have your body rest. That's the physical rest, the physical Shabbos, the lower level of Shabbos. What is the Yoima de Shabbato? What is the day of Shabbos? That's Hamshochas Zo. That's experiencing relaxation by bringing down, not resting of the body, but bringing down the soul and giving you that relaxation and joy from the soul. That's Yom de Shabbato, which is Hamshochas Zo. That is to draw down the level of the Ze'er Anpin. That's already Hamshochas. The Bible de Shabbato is Haloas Malchus. This is bringing down the Ze'er Anpin, who Hamshochas Hagilui, the Nefesh Halikis. This is to draw down the revelation of the godly soul, which is Elyon Sheba Odom. That's the upper part of the person. That's why that is Shabbos Ilo. That's the upper part. There is the Shabbos Tato, the body, and the Nefesh HaBahamis. That's the lower part to elevate them. And the upper in the Shabbos is to be mamshich, the revelation Nefesh Halikis in the person. Through the Yidden keeping both Shabboses, and both with the Guf and the Nefesh Habamis and with the Nefesh Halikis. That way it is brought about that rest, that relaxation. You rest from all matters that interfere in the service of Hashem. You're resting in both in the upper and the lower levels. Whether it's in the lower parts of the person, in his physical struggles and his challenges and his work that he does, he gets to rest from them. And also in the upper levels of the person, that the person can concentrate and bring down from his upper part, from his godly soul, al yidei and nimshach. So through that, the person's observing the Shabbos in both areas. This is also bring down nimshach. This brings down the revelation of relaxation and rest from above in all worlds. They all get to be Shabbos, they all get to rest. As it says in that medrash, in the upper and the lowers, through the avodah of the Yid in keeping his two Shabboses and the level of Guf and Nefesh Habamis and the Neshama, you bring down in all worlds, in the upper worlds, also in this world, which is Naichal le'elyonim v'naichal le'tachtonim, the rest for the upper worlds and the rest for the lower worlds. So that's the idea of Naicha, and that's learned from the words of the Medrash. Base. So I'm going to explain more these upper and lower level and how both the upper level of relaxation or the upper level needs to penetrate and needs to descend into the lower levels. and the lower level needs to be inspired and motivated by the higher level. That's the idea of having both. And as the Rebbe will explain, Shabbos is everything double. Shomer v'zocher, we have to Lecha Mishnah. There's always the idea of double. Double means that in the upper level to reach to the lower level, so it's doubled effort, and the lower level inspired by the upper level, as we'll see inside. To understand this idea with more detail, we will understand it by introducing that which is explained in many places, and also in the above Maimer of the Tzemach Tzedek. The Shtei HaShabbosis Sheyeshnam B'chol Shabbos, that the two Shabbos that exist in every Shabbos, Shayich Lazed, it's also connected that we say Shekol Iska de Shabbos Kofel. All things of Shabbos is all double. This is something about Shabbos that everything is double, which is the Medrash Tillim on the place that the Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos. So that is the idea that it's kofel, that it's double. So he says, and doubled Shabbos also, because everything in Shabbos is double. That's what we need two Shabboses to keep two Shabboses. V'zehu ilmolim mishabrim Yisrael shtei Shabboses kilchosim b'yad nigolim. That if they would keep the two Shabboses as the halach is, they would be redeemed. He kefel shayich legeula, because actually the idea of double is connected to the geula, as he brings down here from the Yalkut Shimoni, the different sources for this, and so that's why through Shabbos, two Shabboses, we get the geula. So what does it mean that all matters of Shabbos are doubled? So we do have the idea of Maila de Shabbat, Friday night, and Shabbos, but with each one, we're saying that it's kofel, it's double, that it means not only that there's two levels, but they're doubled because each one of them is connected to the other one. The Rebbe explains, the Divrei Razal, Kol Isko de Shabbat kofel, that when we say that all the occupation of Shabbos is kofel, Nichlal Gam, this also includes not only that there's two Shabboses, but Shekol Echad B'Shtei HaShabbos Kofel. Each one of these two Shabboses, the Shabbos above and the Shabbos below, Maila is also doubled because they connect with each other. Hainu Shekol Echad Mehem Kolul Mishneim. That really means that each one is included of both. The upper level of Shabbos is connected and has in it from the lower level of Shabbos. The lower level of Shabbos has in it from the upper level of Shabbos. What does that mean? That each one of this, it's doubled, meaning not only is there two levels, but in each level, it has also from the other level. The Rebbe is going to explain. And the idea is basically, what is the upper level by the person? That's his love of fear and love of Hashem. The lower level is the act, what he does. When a person does with love and fear, that's the Shabbos law, that's the higher level. Doing just the act of the mitzvah is the lower levels. They both need to connect. The Av, when we talk about love and fear Hashem, generally, that's the avodah from the soul. That's Yom Shabbat. B'kiyum mitzvahs ma'asiyos, and then when we observe practical mitzvahs, avodah shemitzad haguf. That's the avodah that is from the body. Maila de Shabbat. That's Friday night. That's the Erev Shabbos. So what does it mean that each one v'inyan iska de Shabbat koflu? What does it mean double? Sha'avas Hashem shemitzad haneshama. When you have that love of Hashem that is from the neshama, which is the Elyon Shabbat. We want tumshach benefesh habahamis ubahaguf. That should be extended to the animal soul and the body, the tachtin Shabbat. Doubled means that it should come down from the Elyon, from the neshama, into the guf, into the tachtin Shabbat. As we say, like the pasuk says, "V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha." Levavecha is b'shnei basin, two basin, levavecha. Sha'ava tiya b'cholol hayimoni. So what does it mean? Should be what? That the love should be in the right ventricle of the heart, which is Mekoy Mishkan Nefesh HaLikis, which is the place where the godly soul rests, and also B'cholol HaSmoli, Levavecha, also in the left ventricle, Mekoy Mishkan Nefesh HaBahamis, where the animal souls, that is Levavecha, in both of them. And we need the Ava to go to both. K'maymer Razal, as our sages tell us, that B'chol Levavecha is B'shnei Yitzerecha, with both your inclinations. So, number one is L'chol Levavcha. After B'chol Levavcha, the Yiseidim is, you have B'chol Nafshecha. You have the Yiseidim is B'chol Nafshecha, which means not only in your heart, but Sha'abim Mispashetes B'chol HaKoiches V'Hevorim. That love expands to all powers and limbs, that love of Hashem. How does it express itself? When you're running for a mitzvah, your feet, those are your legs, and your legs are a lower level. You have your legs in the service of Hashem. That means that the love of Hashem has spread all the ways to your legs. Now your legs are running. One who runs for a mitzvah, which is the expression of that love, which is the Elyon, expanding in kofel, becoming kofel into the body. You say to Mizu that after b'chol nafshecha there's a b'chol ma'idecha. What is b'chol ma'idecha? Sha'avose yesavaya nimsheches v'nikeres gam b'chelke ba'olam. That his love of Hashem extends and is recognizable in this portion of the world, which is the b'chol ma'idecha. Ma'idecha means b'chol me'moincha, all of your money. So that means that the love of Hashem extends not only to your heart, not only to your body, but also to everything you own and to your money, to give your money for Hashem. The siyum haparshahu, and we see the end of the parshas, uchsaftum al mezuzos beisecha visharecha, to write them on the posts. That's the mezuzah on your home and your gates. Shayidei ha mezuzah shekoveya bepesach beisei, through the mezuzah, which the person sets at the entrance of his home, niker, then you can tell Shavaya Echod U Hamoishel, that it's the one Hashem who dominates. Behu Hashomer Es Abayis, that's called Hashem B'toicha. He guards the home and everything that's in the home. V'shomer Es Odom, and he guards the person af be. Even when he leaves his house, as we know that the mezuzah doesn't only protect you when you're in the home, but it protects you also. You go out, as the pasuk says, Hashem yishmar tseischa uvayecha. Whether you leave or you come in, atavadil from here, never meaning you're always protected, even on the outside. So this means kofel, that you have the avodah of the nefesh, the ava, the elyon, and the person penetrate and go also in the bottom. And the same thing we have on the other hand. We have in the avodah of the mitzvahs maisiyos, which is the tachtim. The observance of the practical mitzvah, which is avodah shemitzad haguf, which is the service that is from the body. Needs to be doing with love and fear, avodah shemitzad neshama, which is the avodah neshama that is kofel, so you bring in. So the Rebbe explained over here that we have in each one of these parts, the Shabbos Tato and the Shabbos Ilah, we have them connect. That means iska the Shabbos kofel, that they are impacting the upper level impacts the lower level, and the lower level is impacted by the upper level, and together bring about the complete level of relaxation. The Rebbe is going to continue speaking. This is the two levels of Friday night and Shabbos day. Then we also have the level of Friday night. We'll continue.
Okay, thank you very much.